Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Center Stage, Nonprofits of Tucson. We have really cool opportunities to hear about different things that are happening in Tucson and to hear from some of the people who are working hard to make those happen. So we have got a great show for you today, and I am very excited. Although I have to admit, I'm all of a sudden slightly embarrassed. I forgot to ask, how do I say your last name, Jillian?
Well, my name is Jillian Payne Murrieta.
Okay, I'm glad I had you say that because I may have made a mistake there. But thank you so much, Jillian, for being here to represent the Community Gardens of Tucson.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to just start out with having you tell us a little bit about the Community Gardens of Tucson. What is it? You know, kind of the mission statement and the purpose.
So our purpose or our mission is to bring people together in community gardens where they can come together and grow food, learn and work together, and then also to nurture our communities. And so at the Community Gardens of Tucson, we have 20 different community gardens across Tucson. In each of these community gardens, there's plots available for rent. And what that means is there's a plot that's approximately 3 feet by 20 feet. And with that price, you get drip irrigation, all the water that you need for growing healthy, vibrant food, a shed with tools in it. You also have a person that's called a site coordinator. This is a volunteer who is the liaison between the Community Gardens of Tucson and the gardeners that helps pass on information, education. They also organize what's called work parties or gathering events in each of the gardens, and so people can create community. So in our name, we have community and we have Tucson. So we're here to represent Tucson and all aspects and social identities within Tucson, and then also community. We're here to create community, bring a vibrant place to have people come together, a nice green space so people can relax, take a deep breath, learn, and work together.
I didn't realize there were 20 different locations.
Correct. So there's 20 right now. It is fluctuating because we have community gardens that are on private property, public property such as city parks, places of worship, and at schools. And we're in collaboration with various different organizations. So depending on what happens, depends on how many community gardens we have. But right now, it's 20.
That's a really cool, overall, I mean, having so many different aspects of it, the public land and private, and having schools. You know, I was at a school recently that had a full garden, and it was really impressive to me because even at the younger elementary grades, these kids were able to go and to learn and to watch the plants as they grow. And for someone who doesn't do that at home, you know, it's a really great thing for them to learn and to see where does that food come from, what's required to take care of it, and to learn to have a little bit more respect for the plants and for the food that is being produced.
Right. And so we have 6 core values. One of them is always learning. Another one is generation to generation. And so what that means is bringing people of different generations, cultural identities together so that we can learn from each other. The 3 top languages that we have in the garden is English, Spanish, and Swahili. And so all of these different cultures, besides other ones that we have in the gardens, come together and we can learn from each other. And, you know, we just had a garden party where there was a child there and they loved bugs. And so they came and they're like, look at this bug. And then it just gets you excited about the garden and realizing the interactions that happen between us and the environment and how we can garden together within that environmental being.
So you mentioned that you can rent a plot of land. How does that work if someone that's listening, they want to rent a plot of land either for themselves or maybe a group that wants to do something together? What does that look like?
So for our plots, you would contact admin at communitygardensoftucson.org. We also have the phone number, which I'm not going to remember off the top of my head, sorry, or you can go to www.communitygardensoftucson.org to look it up. And so you would just reach out to us, and then we would find the closest garden to your location, whether it's your home or work, and people can come together and people rent it either singly or with, like, I rent it with my neighbor, or a group of people. We have multi-generational families that garden together. And so currently the cost is $22 for a plot. We also have plot fee assistance. So for those people of different economic means can get either a full scholarship, so $0 per month, $10 or $16. It just depends on their economic situation. We just ask them questions and then they answer about how much they can pay. And then currently about 10% of our budget goes to plot fee assistance to bring different people into the garden so we can all garden together.
And so you said $22 is the standard. Is that per month?
Per month. And so we do it in 2 seasons, so 6-month seasons. And you can join anytime, but our seasons start at April 1st and October 1st.
Okay. So then you had mentioned there's someone who's there that can help to talk about, questions that someone has. If someone wanted to get into gardening and they wanted to try it out and they don't know what to plant, because what you're planting in April versus October is, of course, very different. And so if they didn't know where to start, is there there's someone that's there that they can ask those questions to and kind of get some of that information?
Correct. So just like I said, always learning is one of our 6 core values. And so with that, when you contact us, our administrator connects you with the site coordinator or someone to do a tour of the garden. So you get to look at the different gardens, see them, because each garden has its own unique feel depending on what type of land it is and the community that's there. You take a tour, you decide if that's the garden right for you, or you can tour another garden. Once you do sign up and accept, then you get an email with all the information about what to garden. And then also we have educational series that go on in the various different gardens. On our website, we have information. And then, like I said, we have the site coordinators or the volunteers who organize gatherings in the garden where people come together and they give you information. And then you just talk to other gardeners and you learn about what it is that you can plant during what season. And so it's all on our website and in information that's given to you.
And then what does it look like when you're partnering with a school, for example? Is the school, obviously they're providing space for this to happen. Are they putting something together, or are you helping them to put together the garden?
It depends on the location for the school. So it just depends. So standardly, what happens is at the school locations, there's certain plots that are designated to the school. So then the teachers can bring out their students and they can do education with them in their plots. And then the other plots are rented to either parents of that school or outside community members come in. And so some gardens you need to garden outside of school hours, or else other gardens you can go in at any time you need to or want to. And we recommend daylight hours.
So I'm curious also about someone who, you said some of these are on private land. So if someone had some space where they would be wanting to allow a garden, what does that look like in terms of, are they just providing you with the space again? Are they, on private land? How is that a little bit different?
Well, if somebody has some land that they're interested in creating a community garden on, they can just reach out to us at the same information that I provided earlier, and we can give you information. So we also provide information on how people can create their own community garden, or if they want to join with us for it. And so the land is basically leased out to us, or we're allowed to be on it. We ask for a 5-year minimum because of putting in all the infrastructure necessary for the gardening to occur, and then creation of community. So community is great and wonderful, but it takes time to create community.
And is there a minimum amount of space that's required if you're setting that up on private land?
We request that there's enough space so that we can have approximately 20 plots at a location. And that is because if you have too few plots, it's hard to create community, and that's what we're about.
Yeah, that's very good information. I like the aspect, one, the education. It's always an important thing. I think that a lot of kids today also aren't necessarily learning about planting, about, what it takes to actually grow that apple that they're wanting to eat or grow those carrots that they're wanting to eat. And so to understand everything that goes into it, that teaching the younger generations is great. And that you mentioned there were other pillars as well. I think we talked about two, the community and generation to generation. What are the other four?
So another one is environmental sustainability. So when I talk about community, we're a part of a community in the environment. And so that is the garden plot itself. So there's different microbiome that's there, creation of strong soil so things can grow. Also, we do live in the desert. There are different animals, et cetera, that live around us. And so how do we garden with that? And then also the use of water. So water is becoming a big issue in Arizona as other places. And so how can we create super healthy soil and utilization of as little water as possible, but still grow lots of food for us to eat?
And so, talking again about water, some plants require a lot of water, whereas some require less. Is the irrigation system set up so that different areas would get different amounts of water, or is everything consistent?
It's consistent. And so what we do is that we recommend different types of plants that you want. So for example, tomatoes. Right now it's tomato season for people to grow them. And so we recommend growing smaller tomatoes varieties, such as grape tomatoes or yellow pear tomatoes, versus like the big boy tomatoes that you see in the grocery store. Just because it's very hot, it's ideal to grow smaller tomatoes and things that grow faster because of the heat, and so that you can grow them that way.
Okay, well, thank you. We are talking with Jillian from the Community Gardens of Tucson, and we've gotten to hear a lot of different things about how the gardens are run and some of the goals. And so it's been really great to hear and to learn more. And I am excited to hear more about opportunities to get involved and to partner with the community gardens. So we will hear a lot more about that when we come back after the break. We are back with Jillian from the Community Gardens of Tucson. So we had talked about the number of gardens. There were 20 gardens across Tucson, which was a lot more than I realized that there were. And so that's really exciting that there's so much opportunity, and that one of the goals of having these gardens is to create community within the garden and for people to work together and to learn from each other and to share with each other. Can we talk a little bit about the accessibility of these gardens?
Yes. So in all of our gardens, we have one of our other 6 core values is everyone is welcome. And what I mean by that is we want to make the gardens accessible to all. A lot of times when we talk about accessibility, the first thing that people think about is physical accessibility. So we are definitely working hard on making all of our gardens physically accessible. So we're trying to have raised beds in all of our gardens for people of different physical abilities, so they can come in and garden. Make sure that entrances to our gardens are easily opened and closed for those gardeners who might have arthritis or difficulties utilizing their hands. But when I also talk about accessibility, I want to talk about language accessibility. So we have our documents translated in the 3 most popular languages currently in our garden, so English, Spanish, and Swahili. We also have translation services for people who speak other languages so that we can communicate with them. We also talk about technology accessibility. So we have people of different economic means and abilities to gain technology. So we utilize all different types of technology, or paper and pencil if that's what's needed for them. And then also accessibility through where our gardens are located. So we're trying to expand into areas that are food deserts. And that means those are areas where a grocery store or access to good, healthy food is not within a mile of where they live. So we want to create gardens that are easily accessible by transportation. So that means gardens in areas that people can walk to within a mile from their home, along bus routes or bike routes too. And so as we expand into different areas of town, that is some things that we are thinking about, so that we can make people have access to all these gardens and bring a green space near them, because we all know that life is very stressful and we're opening up our gardens to all people. So whether they garden with us or they don't garden with us, they can come and enjoy the area and some of the other activities that we have in those areas in the gardens, such as we have yoga in some of the gardens, we do poetry reading, we have mural painting events and things like that. So people can come together across different activities.
Are those free activities or is there a charge for those?
Everything is free within our gardens for those activities.
And I think you had mentioned earlier that some of the gardens are in parks. So if there was someone who wanted to have something that was close where they didn't have this accessibility to a grocery store very close to them, but there's a park, what would be kind of a first step if they wanted to try to ask if the park would allow you to come in and create a garden there?
Well, we're working on a collaboration with Tucson Parks and Recreation. And so hopefully the agreement will get signed in the near future. And so we will help take over some of their current community gardens that they have. And then also as they're planning new parks or upgrades to their parks, that community gardens are going in and within collaboration with the community gardens of Tucson so that we can bring those closer to people.
That's really exciting that you have that collaboration starting. Is there anything that listeners could do to help with that or to kind of be in the know, I guess, if something were to happen close to them that there's not currently a garden right there?
Well, the information is given out on the various emails for either the wards of the in Tucson, also through city news. You can also reach out to your various parks and let them know that you're interested in having a community garden there. And surveys have been sent out from Parks and Recs to various communities to see what their interests are and make sure when you fill out those evaluations that you put on that you would like a community garden.
That is really cool. I love that. And we also have sort of talked about the fact that there are opportunities to volunteer and there are work days and different things. If someone wanted to come and they don't want to have their own plot, but they want to be part of the community gardens and they want to help out and volunteer, what are some of the ways that they could do that?
So almost every Saturday, we have what we call work parties. So at our different community gardens, we bring people together, gardeners and outside people from the organization come together to do different activities such as weeding, creation of raised beds, as I talked about, increasing accessibility, painting of signs. And so this is a family-friendly event. So people can come with their children and we have different activities. So different people of different ages and different abilities can do things. Sometimes we have people who are moving wheelbarrows full of soil, but then we have other things that people who are not quite as physically able can paint signs, etc., to do that. And so those work parties, you can look for us on Instagram and Facebook under Community Gardens of Tucson. Also, it's posted on the United Way website and then on Meetup Tucson for those different events. So those are some volunteer activities where if you want to get physical, you can do that. Also on our social media, we have the different activities such as the poetry reading, yoga, etc. on that, so people can come together and join us with that. If anybody's interested in putting on a class, whether it's education about gardening, soil conservation, water conservation, or doing other activities such as arts and crafts in the garden, they can reach out to us and volunteer that way. We do have a call out for educators. And then also people can volunteer with us in other ways, such as being on the board of directors, being on one of our committees that we have, or if you have a special skill set that you're very good at, writing, you can help work on some of our newsletters and information that we send out.
So lots of ways to volunteer, lots of ways to get involved, and so it sounds like also most of the opportunities, they're not necessarily a long-term commitment. Some of them would be, but some are, maybe just a few hours one day or as much as you would like to be involved.
Correct. So we have some work groups that reach out to us and they want to do team building activities. So they come into our garden and they work with us for 2-3 hours and they work on a project. And they can be a one-time thing or it can be a recurring thing.
And then what about donations? What kind of donations can you accept?
So for donations, we are a 501c, which means we are a nonprofit, so we can accept donations. So you can give monetary donations, of course, and you can do that through our website. Also, we can accept Arizona state tax credit dollars. So think of us at tax credit time. That can be over, I believe for next year, it's $441 for individuals and $882 for people who file jointly. We also accept in-kind donations. So anybody who has a business that they have, selling of garden tools or picnic tables or sunshades, things like that we can use in the garden. And then we also have Amazon wish list. If you go to Fry's or some of the other grocery stores, you can pick us as your charity of choice.
Okay. And where is the Amazon wish list? Is that different for different community gardens, or is it one general list?
We have one general list. It's on our website. So at communitygardensoftucson.org, you can see that on our donate page.
And then I can't remember what you called it. Community garden manager, I guess, for each of the community gardens.
So a site coordinator is the person who's our liaison. And so just to be more specific, we have one person, or we also have site coordinator committees where it's a group of people within the garden come together and take on the various different responsibilities to help tour people, to organize work days. Some people work on irrigation, on composting, etc.
Okay. And when you are setting up a new garden in a new location, how does that kind of start with building or getting a new site coordinator or a new team, putting together, actually constructing the gardens, the irrigation, setting all of that up? Is that something where more people would be asked to come in and volunteer and help out getting that done?
Correct. So if we are to create a new garden, so for example, we are in collaboration with Primavera Foundation, and so that is how our most recent 3 gardens came on. And so they had community gardens there, but they wanted to create some more community. So then we do outreach to bring in some more gardeners into those areas or that specific garden. And then also of the people who are gardening there, we see what skill sets they have and what interests they have to bring them together to create that community and that site coordinator person or group.
Okay. I love hearing all of the different aspects of this and just all the different ways to get involved. And for the listeners who are regularly listening to my show, one of the things that I'm always trying to talk about and provide opportunities for is the family volunteering, because this is something that a family can come together and you can either get your own plot and you can garden together as a family, or be part of some of these other activities and part of some of these work days and volunteer days. But to do that together as a family teaches the kids so much. They get so much out of it. And again, I noticed in my own kids, we do a little bit of gardening at home. Being able to see the plants from seed to then actually having the produce, it makes a huge difference. They have a whole new respect for those fruits and vegetables and herbs and anything that we're planting, because they're actually seeing the whole process and the time that it takes.
Correct. And then also it's the opportunity to taste really fresh produce. And so it tastes so much better. And if other people are trying it, a lot of times kids will come up and they'll say, "Oh, can I try that too?" And between all the different gardeners in the garden, you will see a wide variety of plants that are growing and produce and fruits.
That is a really cool opportunity too. I love seeing the kids go and actually pick something and want to try it. And so that's a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Jillian, for being on the show with us today and for sharing about the Community Gardens of Tucson. Can you give us the website one more time if someone wants to get involved?
So for the website, it is communitygardensoftucson.org. And you can email admin@communitygardensoftucson.org.
Thank you so much. And also we want to say thank you to our sponsor, Right Way Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. And if you are in the market for buying or selling a home, feel free to call me, Danielle Johnson with Indy Realty at 520-373-6864. And we do have more opportunities if you know a nonprofit here in Tucson that you'd love to hear about on our show.